It is Tuesday, and it's time to talk about severe thunderstorms and lightning with Tim Halbach. Tim, severe weather happens every year in Wisconsin. I like the title of this graphic. Break it down for us.
Well, it's already even happened this year. We've already had a number of storms that have been severe, produced large hail. It's really just the frequency and location of where that severe weather happens, so we need to be prepared for it. What the Weather Service considers a storm to be a severe thunderstorm is 58 mile per hour winds or higher with the damaging winds that come from a thunderstorm, or hail the size of a quarter or larger. So those are our two thresholds. Heavy rainfall or lightning frequency doesn't factor into that. It might tell us if that storm is maybe a little bit stronger, but we don't have a certain threshold of there's so many lightning strikes per square mile, and that's triggering it to be a severe thunderstorm. So these are the situations when we found that there's damage from thunderstorms, and that's what we want to warn people on.
And in conjunction, I mean, you guys have all the tools in your possession to help. I don't know if you want to diagnose the storms or call them out for what they are, but as we see severe weather come together, we saw some stuff over the weekend down in Mississippi. We knew a couple of days out that it was going to be rough in that area, and the Storm Prediction Center uses thunderstorm outlooks, and it's something that you guys work with as well. And you got a nice chart here kind of breaking that down. So let's talk about the outlook.
Yeah, so the outlooks are they're forecasts from meteorologists from the Storm Prediction Center out of Norman, Oklahoma. They're our nation's experts on severe weather forecasting. And when they see different trends or setups occurring with the weather pattern, they put out these forecasts to say this is the level of severe weather that we're expecting from this situation. So it's generally a heads up that your first heads up that severe weather is possible. So the chart they use is basically on a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being the most isolated type of severe threat to 5 out of 5. The high risk is your long track tornado, a horrible weather day type scenario. So they use this chart to kind of give a heads up to here's the level that we're expecting to be at, or the first forecast to give people a heads up that severe weather is going to be possible. Generally for us in Wisconsin, the most common level to get to severe weather typically is the slight risk, so the 2 out of 5. When I hear that there's a slight risk for severe weather, they're forecasting that. That's typically when we start looking at our staffing plan and seeing if we need extra people to be coming in to issue warnings and that sort of thing. So that's really if you see that we're in that level or higher, that's a day to start kind of getting more information. What are our expectations for when the storms are going to come in, and be prepared for that potential severe weather that day.
Yeah, and if you look at the slight one, that could include a tornado. So don't let the slight throw you off. That doesn't mean that you can't rule out the possibility of still a life threat and certainly a chance of even a tornado.
Yeah, and the biggest example of that came from earlier this year with the Nashville tornado, or the Tennessee tornadoes that they had. A horrible situation where it happened at night too. It was a scenario where it was one storm that got a lot stronger than any of the forecast models were really predicting, and it also didn't have really wide coverage. It was the one storm that just went forever and ever and ever, and it ended up coming through in the middle of the night, and people weren't prepared for it because the forecast wasn't there. And we still, in hindsight, trying to figure out why that one storm went, it's still a bit of a mystery. So you can get devastating type severe weather with setups like a slight risk or even a marginal risk sometimes. It's just on the days where we're pushing the moderate or high risk, the higher end types of severe weather, it's a little bit more likely or a little bit more widespread that scenario is going to cause some major issues.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of high threats in Wisconsin, generally speaking, and knock on wood, we don't want to see them by any means. On the graphic here that you shared, you do show the year, it was June 7th, of 2007, where looks like we were circled in a high potentially here, and the long track. When you say long track, I mean you think of a long tornado track too, but it's a series of storms that just keeps reoccurring over and over, and you just never know what can happen from it. And the photos here, it does justice on how serious that high risk can be.
Yeah, and that was kind of an interesting day because most of the state didn't see anything. A lot of people consider that to be a bust. It's the only high risk setup that we've ever had here in Wisconsin. But that one storm that did develop produced the second largest hailstone that's ever occurred in Wisconsin at 5.5 inch diameter hailstone. And then that same storm kept trucking along through the Wausau area and leveled trees on a magnitude that you can still see it from satellite today. It looks like there's a big scar across the forest for where that tornado went through, like a buzzsaw. And it still shows up today when everything greens up and there's this big patch of just dead trees that haven't fully grown since that tornado went through. So it's a day where you hope that nothing happens and that you do bust. But on the days where it is something's going to come together and there's going to be some really bad storm that does come through. So hopefully, like you said, we don't get in that type of a setup anytime soon, but that's something to keep an eye out for the future.
Yeah, finally, as part of this day too, you're talking about the thunder and lightning aspect and lightning safety. We could spend a whole time just on this part only, but if thunder roars, go indoors. Certainly very important. We get a lot of thunderstorms in Wisconsin. Doesn't need to be severe to mean that you can't get struck by lightning.
Yeah, generally, if you're hearing thunder, you're close enough to get struck by lightning. So that's why we tell people that, if you are hearing it, it's time to go inside. You want to wait about a half hour after that last roar of thunder before you go back outside. So generally with kids, if they're outside playing or anything like that, that's really the time to get in. Most of the injuries or fatalities that occur with lightning are people that are underneath trees. The lightning will hit the tree and then come through the base of it and spread out across the ground. And if anybody's in that width of where the lightning current goes, they can get electrocuted from it. So being inside a house or a car is an ideal spot to be in. You're in a safe spot with lightning for that. So just wait it out, try to get inside. And again, it's more so hearing the thunder than seeing the lightning. You could see lightning in a thunderstorm that's really far away. So just rely on that with the thunder.
Absolutely. And again, using all of the stuff we've talked about today, pulling that plan together when weather is moving in, whether severe or not, definitely could save your life. Tim, thank you as always.
Yep, no problem.